small entrepreneurs who want to design clothes in different fashions and get them out into the real world. So there's a big disconnect between small companies and small designers and getting to be known to the rest of the real world, and actually reaching people like you, or other people in New York City, or everywhere else in the world. And so that's the bridge they try to fix with their company. So these are two of the founders, Ben and Shezi, and they're going to tell you a bit about the company for about 10, maybe 15 minutes. But what I really want you guys to do is just think of questions you have for their company. They're, you guys, about 6 months, 8 months in, something like that? Okay, so very, very new company. I think just this year they started, and so they're still getting off the ground right now, but your feedback and your questions are incredibly helpful to people like them.
So my name is Dinesh, I'm one of the founders. Just to give you guys a quick rundown of kind of how it happened and how it started. I'm actually a lawyer, so I spent a ridiculous amount of time in school in order to get my law degree. And what I did was I worked with a lot of startups, very, very young startups, to kind of get help them on the legal end, because not all startups can actually afford very, very large law firms because it costs too much. And in that, I ended up kind of just meeting a lot of people in the fashion industry. A lot of really young designers who are amazing and extremely talented, but what we noticed with them was that they weren't getting into the right stores. Because I mean, you start off as a designer, and your dream is that you're going to walk into like Bergdorf Goodman or Barney's or any of those stores that you always see on the Fab, and you dream about them, and they're just going to take your designs. But the reality is that just like any corporation, all of those companies are very corporate as well. So they're very risk averse. They don't want to take a chance with somebody who's new. They don't want to take a chance of buying your product without having it be tested on the market. So it becomes a bit of a chicken and the egg story, where each buyer from these stores asks the designer, oh, okay, well, this is great. You've been out for an entire 2 months. How much have you sold? And the buyer and the designer is like, well, I can't sell anything until you buy from me. So living in that world, what ends up happening is that people who are truly talented actually never get in front of the right people. They never get in front of the right customer, essentially. And the cost of production is really high. I don't know if you guys actually know, but like every single t-shirt that's made, if it was made in New York City, would probably cost 4 times what it would cost if it's made abroad. But you can't make things abroad unless you make thousands and thousands and thousands of them. So if you're a young designer, you could only produce about 10 of each thing, which makes your cost go up much higher, and it makes it impossible for you to sell something for $10, and you end up selling it for like 50, because otherwise you're losing money. So with that world that we lived in, a couple of the companies that I worked with as a lawyer actually ended up closing shop, which is always a really sad thing to see, because these people are very passionate about what they do. They're not in it to make money, they're actually in it because this is something they believe in, which is what really true entrepreneurship is about. So when I saw a bunch of them close up, I talked to one of my friends who's also a designer, and her company also closed doors. And we were all sitting together at dinner one night, and it was me, Shezi, our friend Aziz, who's amazing in marketing and design, and a friend who's a sales executive, and his designer friend. And all of us kind of discussed that, there has to be a solution to this. The market is way too fragmented. There's just no way that this problem exists and no one's looking for a solution for it. So what we came up with was this idea called Vicaire, which would essentially become an online boutique for emerging designers in order to help them graduate to the next level. So right now it exists for fashion. I don't know if you guys actually care about fashion at all, but on the business end of it, what exists is the flash sale model. I'm sure you guys have heard of things like Gilts Group, or Ideally, or all of those like Lula's out there. What they do is they take whatever you have in stock, they discount it by 90%, and that's what they buy from you. Then they sell that to the customer at a high markup. What that does for the designer is the designer loses money. And they also, in the long run, lose reputation. Because are you going to take someone seriously at $400 if you just bought them online for $30? Probably not. You're never going to buy them at $400. You're always going to want to wait until they get up to $30 or $20. So that market, while they're serving emerging designers, was actually doing emerging designers a disservice as well. So what Vicaire would essentially become is an online boutique for just emerging designers. And what we would do is we would actually invest only in designers that we care about, which meant that we actually vet our designers by looking at not what stores they're carried in, but how many stores they've tried to be carried in. Really, what do they understand about the market? Do they really care passionately about design and fashion? Or are they really just in this because they want to be the next big thing, they want to be the next Gucci, the next Louis Vuitton? Because those are the type of people that we don't feel the need to invest in, because they'll make their own way for whatever reason. So we started evaluating them. And it turns out there are thousands and thousands and thousands of fashion designers out there, but maybe there's like a handful of them that we really like. And not just because of what they're making, but also the messaging behind what they're doing, and also the passion. And a lot of them also really have some amazing social responsibility components to what they're doing as well. So similar to like Tom's shoes and things like that. One of the girls that we're working with is now wanting to produce everything in South Africa because she's South African herself, and as a young kid, never had access to the type of clothes and the fashion and the fabrics that she has in the U.S., and that's her passion now. Another one is actually wants to put everything into India because she wants everyone, like all the handwork to be done in India and all the fabric to be sourced from there, so she can give a living wage to the people in those countries, as opposed to the way like large corporations do it, where they don't have to. They can give you whatever they want, 25 cents on the dollar, and it's okay. So seeing all of that, and those are the type of designers that we're bringing on board, and so we've actually, in that process, have begun to like push our launch further and further down, because we are actually evolving as a company internally also. Where initially we were very focused on like the designer, and then we started doing, okay, well, we need customers for the designer. So what story can we tell about the designers in order to get the customer more involved, right? I, as a consumer, am not going to drop a couple $100 on anything, unless you can sell it to me on an emotional level, right? If you look at, a lot of you guys have Macs, and like the entire thing behind like the Apple product is that they tap into your emotions. If you look at every commercial of theirs, you end up buying into them, not because of, oh my god, it's a really cool machine, it's because, wow, it actually evokes an emotion in you that you didn't even know was there to begin with. And that's what we're trying to do with the fashion component of this, right? For a lot of women, men also, your fashion in some ways ends up being an outward reflection of what you are, right? And for every girl, probably every guy, sorry, I'm just going to talk from the girl's perspective on this. If someone compliments something that you're wearing, you want to be able to, sometimes you want to be able to talk about it, like where you got it. I'm the first one to discover this. Actually, this company, works with people in Argentina to make sure that, vaccines are also got down there, and that's what we're funding. Things like that. So that's the type of story that we want to be able to tell. We want everyone to tap into their emotions, and we want the consumer to buy the product, not just because it's an expensive, pretty thing, but because they're buying into this concept of a young fashion designer who is trying to make their mark in the world, and they're trying to do something with their lives, and in addition to that, are actually helping everybody else. So that's where we're at right now. I don't know if you want me to go into more detail.
You guys have any questions so far?
Are you thinking of using a lot of new social media techniques to get the word out about your company?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're doing is we're actually going to stay away from the traditional PR route. We're actually going to do purely social media.
Okay.
To begin with. We're really lucky that one of our partners is a marketing guru, essentially. So we actually have the benefit of using all the new technology that's coming out. Shazzy is also a part of some new tech startup. So we're going to start building partnerships with the new tech startups as well, so that we can actually be at the forefront of the technology as it's developing.
Oh, okay.
So what do you plan on doing once these designers actually get into stores?
So what we want to do is that we want them to graduate essentially from Big Hair. We don't want you forever. If you've been around for more than 5 years, you should, we don't want you on our site. And if you started with us, in year 3, and you come into being in Barney's and Macy's and whatever else, we're really happy for you, and we actually won't carry you on our site anymore. We actually want to facilitate those relationships for the designers as well. So we actually will be providing the sales data to these stores. So if someone's trying to sell to Macy's, and they ask, well, where have you sold? We want Big Hair to be an actual platform that, just by the name of it, the designer will be taken seriously.
How important are things like Kickstarter and online funding sources for emerging companies, I guess, especially in the fashion industry?
They're extremely, extremely important. But something that a lot of companies don't understand about Kickstarter and all these crowdfunding sources is that they're really only as good as your own network is initially, right? Because yes, you have the platform to work with, but then you are the one who has to market it. So it's not actually a static product. So you can't just go on there and say, this is my company, all these random people I've never met, please fund me, and say, this is my company, this is so I believe in it. And then you have to email all of your friends, email all of your family, and get them to email people, and get them to go on social media, and Facebook, Twitter, everywhere else, to talk about why your company should get that money. It's kind of like, it's a great place to start, but it's not the end of it either, right?
It also requires a lot of work once you've published your fundraising campaign. You have to sustain that. You have to get the word out. Visibility is important.
Good.
So how do you make money if you're producing in places where it costs more to make the product, if you're getting rid of all your successful designers, and you're only harboring designers who aren't big names and who don't sell a lot? I mean, if I could sell a lot, I wouldn't need you, and you wouldn't allow me. So you're only having designers who don't sell a lot, and you're producing in more expensive places, which give you lower profit margins. How do you make money?
So it's a really good question. Designers that we're having on our site, the only reason that people aren't buying them is that people don't know they exist, right? So I can have a phenomenal cup of coffee here, but if only 2 of my friends know that I have this coffee, those are the only 2 who can buy it. But if you combine everyone's different networks, all the designers' different networks, as well as our networks where we care, then you suddenly have 200 people that know that my coffee exists, and then 200 people will want to buy my coffee. And that's what we're banking on, right? That as you increase the network and as you increase the visibility, the more likely the sales are to happen. We're also, the way you want to look at it for this type of company is that we're not getting rid of our successful designers. We're telling the younger designers that you can become successful through us. And you're tapping into a market of a lot of women buyers that actually don't want to wear what everybody else is wearing. So they don't want to wear what's at Forever 21, right? They want to have something that exclusive. They want to be the one to actually discover the next new big thing. That's the market that we're actually looking at.
So from an expertise standpoint, is it true that you're banking on your ability to find really good designers before people do it?
Absolutely.
So who on the team does that?
So Nyla, her name is Nyla Hashmi. She's a designer herself. She graduated from FIT and she's worked for Tory Burch, Christian Dior, Ralph Lauren. She's amazing. So she's the one who's going to she's been reviewing all the designers to see what she thinks is going to be the next big thing, which is she looks at everything from stuff that I don't even understand, like the craftsmanship and the fabric and the design and like the type of market that they're looking at, where they would end, are they designer level or the contemporary. There's all this entire world in the fashion marketing world that I don't really know as well, but she really understands it, and that's what we're looking at. We want a designer to be able to look at it and say this is going to be big. We don't want to be that company who's like, hi, I'm some random person, I used to work at a magazine, and now I can decide what's going to be the next best thing, because I don't know that.
I have 2 questions. So following up from that, is it more so you're expecting people to come to you and then you vet them, or is it more that your designer is going out and looking for people who are designers who are doing a good job and saying to them, oh, I want you to come be with our company and we can help market?
We're doing both.
You're doing both.
We're doing both. There are designers who contacted us, and we do vet them, and there are like a few that we like. But it's a passion of ours, I guess, to go find the people who wouldn't really know where to look. Because I don't know if you guys, you'll learn this later on, but in schools that are fashion-based schools, they don't actually teach you the business end of things, right? So they teach you how to design, they teach you how to sew, they teach you all the components of making a beautiful garment. They don't actually get into, this is the business of fashion. This is how you actually sell. This is what a profit margin actually means. So those are the designers that will never be able to find us, and that's what we want to be able to get them.
So my other question was, when you talk about people kind of graduating from your company, have you given any thought to putting some kind of making that into a revenue stream of some kind? So like, if you came from our company, once you graduate, we're not marketing for you anymore, but X percentage of revenue that you make for the next 5 years comes to us. Is that something you're doing?
Yeah. So what we're doing is we want to actually broker the deals between the designer and some of the larger boutiques. So one of the sales executives that we have on board is going to be talking to some of the more exclusive boutiques in New York. This is where like a lot of the bigger companies go to also to see what like, the new designers are. To broker deals with them, saying that if a designer does well on our site, we want you to be able to carry like 2, 3, 4 of their designs, on a quarterly basis to see where they'll go in your boutique. And whatever deal we broker with them, we would get a percentage of that as well.
So Robin, as you can see on has been talking about competition,
Mhm.
and he said, what makes you different and better than someone else who could really copy your business plan? What is your unique factor? There's not really a lot of intellectual property here, so what makes you guys, what limits other people from competing with you?
So there's two different things. So one thing is that we have something that we're calling the be the buyer component, which a lot of people have done in the sense of like they'll put some design up and you can vote for it, and if there's enough votes, then people will actually produce it. What we're doing is we're saying, well, we want all our customers to put their money where their mouth is. You can't just vote for something, you have to buy it. So it's kind of combining like a Kickstarter crowdfunding model with this like crowdsourcing model and bringing it together, which is here's a design that this designer has made, and it was never produced because it's too expensive, or like a buyer didn't believe in it enough. And we need at least 10 people to buy this, and if 10 people don't buy it, it'll never get produced. But if 10 people do buy this, then this will be an exclusive thing that they own and nobody else will ever own it. And to us, that's the most unique part of what we're doing, because it's something that actually makes people be involved in the process as opposed to just a static buying experience.
So if you do something like that, but not enough people buy it, the people who bought it to try to get it produced get their money back?
Yep. It's just like, so Kickstarter does a similar thing, right? Where if you actually, so if your goal is $1,000, but you don't hit that number, everybody's money gets refunded to them. Nothing is ever charged. So similarly here, if we don't make the goal, all the money will be given back.
Do you have to give the product back, or if you really like it, say I really like this T-shirt, but I bought it, it's not getting produced. Can I keep it?
Well, it's not going to be produced, so you'll never, I mean, it was never in your hands.
Oh, I
to
never
begin
get it to
with.
you.
So once people actually buy it, and like the time period, which is probably like 2 weeks, ends, if they've hit their mark, then that product will go into production, and we're going to try and force the production to occur in New York City in order to help the Garment Center, as well as to keep production quality high and make sure that we're bringing the jobs back to the city.
You said like 10 people have to say that they want to bring. Is that just an example number? It seems like how does that weigh with the amount of time that actually goes into creating this and coming up with the designs for this? I mean, it's probably tons and tons of dozens of hours. And so like, what's the trade-off point between the designer puts in 2 weeks worth of work designing something and then no one says they want it, and so you don't produce it, and then that's like 2 weeks worth of time wasted?
So that actually happens anyway. So what ends up happening in a design cycle is that the designer will actually sketch out all the pieces. They'll actually make a sample of all of the pieces. So all of that is ready to go for buyers to look at. Oftentimes what happens is the buyers just don't buy anything. So you have just racks and racks of samples just sitting there of amazing pieces that nobody wants. So what we'll do is we'll actually go through the samples that you've already made for this season or for a previous season maybe because I like it, and we'll pick from there. So the design where everything is done, we're not asking you to do any additional work, we're just helping you make money, hopefully, on something that's already been in existence.
So for the samples that do never see the light of day, like they never, they never get mass produced, has there been any thought to saying like, maybe like even if just one person wants it and the sample was produced anyway, nothing's going to happen with it? Has there been thought given to people can buy a one-off sample production?
Right, so I mean those happen a lot. They're called sample sales, and we probably will allow sample sales on our site eventually. But most samples are not production quality samples. So oftentimes they're slightly lower quality, or there might be something wrong with them that needs to get fixed. So they're not actually as high quality as we would want to sell.
Okay. Questions from the ladies, perhaps? Those more inclined to good fashion at this age?
I think I'm very
No shirts.
How many of you want to be entrepreneurs or would consider being an entrepreneur?
Any ideas already? Smart, you're not telling anyone. That's a smart way to go about it. Well, one of the things that we always find interesting is my brother's an engineer. He's an electrical engineer who has absolutely no entrepreneurial acumen whatsoever. And I always try to kind of suck him into what we're doing and even kind of guilt trip him into making us an app. And he's not doing it. It's really sad. But maybe for my birthday. sure Robin will like really talk to you guys about like entrepreneurship and things like that. But going through the process of higher education and schooling, a lot of times they don't talk to you about being innovative outside of what's put in front of you. And the other thing you're going to hear a lot is like, entrepreneurship makes you a lot of money, right? Those aren't the right reasons to get into entrepreneurship ever. When you guys are doing it, always look for something where you're solving a problem. Always. Because if you're not solving a problem, if you're just creating something, it's never really going to get you where you want to be, and it's never going to give you the fulfillment you want either. So for us, like, this is something that I'm really passionate about, because I think that as young entrepreneurs, designers are young entrepreneurs as well, people just don't give you a chance. And this is our way of giving people a chance.
Yeah, and
Questions?
yes.
So, if I heard it correct, you said the solution to attract the consumer is to attack like emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, India, you said people create from India.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't care about India, it wouldn't attract me. So do you produce product like for certain group to attract like emotionally only certain group?
So it's not about caring about India, right? So this is where the marketing component comes in, right? I may not care about a particular country, but I do care about starving children. Everybody in this world cares about starving children. And this is a terrible way to look at things, so please don't do this for the rest of your life. Starving children and mothers, people really, really care about. So if you actually say that that this product is being made by women in India or in Africa or in South America, who are trying to get money in order to feed their families, it's sold. It's done. And that's unfortunately the type of emotional blackmail that we're going to be using for our customers.
I have a question for you guys. Anyone who's ever founded a company, there's always like a couple things that keep you sleepless at night in your company, your project. What makes you guys sleepless about this idea?
Customers.
Yeah, I think customer reception, whether our branding or image or aesthetic will be received the way we want it to be received. Just getting that traction, really, to make this self-sustaining, that momentum. I think that creates a sense of urgency in us, as it should, actually. I think it's healthy for an entrepreneur to feel that sense of urgency because it keeps you on your toes and keeps your mind working. But I think that essentially is what sort of keeps us on edge.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I think it was initially funding. Because we were very early on contacted by BSE out of the blue, who wanted to talk to us and talk potential investment. And all of us were really excited about it initially. And then, they're still looking at us and they want us to, actually go live and things like that. But for us, the biggest question was, do we want to take the funding or not? Which is something that, as entrepreneurs, it's a very difficult thing to say no to someone when they're offering you a lot of money. But for us, we've actually come to the decision that we're not going to take institutional funding right now, and maybe not for at least 2 years, because we don't want our idea to be taken over by someone else. We want to actually build our company the way we want to build it, and sometimes institutional funding isn't the way to go. And for us right now, it was a really rough decision for us to make, but we just don't think it's going to happen. Like, we don't want it to happen for us right now.
So, if you say you shouldn't just be looking to make money, that you should be solving a problem. But if you come at something with the idea that I'm just going to solve a problem and I'm planning on probably not making money or just I don't really care about it, what incentive is there to go solve the problem?
See, now that's where you have to balance business acumen with the need to solve a problem. A good entrepreneur knows how to make money by solving a problem. A really simple example of this is a very, very simple example. I take the bus down to DC a lot because I work there, my parents live there. And, they've stopped in Baltimore on the way, and out of nowhere, the past couple of months, this guy has started selling, like, soda out of the trunk of his car at the Baltimore stop. It's brilliant. There's a problem. Everyone by that point is starving and wants water and Coke or whatever.
Especially in the summertime.
Yeah,
the bus is
absolutely. So now he's charging $3 a pop for, a bottle of water. And he can, right? So he's solving a problem, but he knows that he's making money off of it. So that's the way you have to look at it.
It's the true definition of entrepreneurship, right? It's, yes, you want to create a system where you're making money, where you're generating revenues, right? But at the same time, you're filling a void in a particular space, in a market, in sky's the limit. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you cannot do this or that it's impossible. It's absolutely not.
Yeah, and in that line of work, half the time when you're innovating something, people don't know that they have a need for it, right? I mean,
sometimes the public, the customers, they themselves don't know
that they want this.
That they want this. You create that want, right? That's what Steve Jobs did in Apple. He created the want, the desire to want the iPhone, the iPad, right? The Macs, right? And if he had asked them 15 years ago, hey, do you want this? Most people would be like, I don't understand. Why would I want to surf the web on my phone? That's ridiculous, right? But he created that.
I mean, I have an iPad. I still don't know for what reason I have an iPad, but, I wanted it. I have no idea why. I still don't know what I use it for. But I have actually justified to myself that in my profession, I somehow need an iPad. I don't. But that's what you need to do. Like, that's like when you're building your team as an entrepreneur, you want somebody on your team at the marketing level who knows how to do that for you. And that's the other thing, I guess, is like the team matters. Like for us, like I don't think we could do anything without our team at all. Like my job is like to create the company, strategize the company, figure out what our like plans are going to be. I don't want to be bogged down with the tech part or the legal part or like A, B, and C, right? Because if I do all of that, my company's not going to get anywhere. So when you guys are thinking about your ideas, also think about the team that you want to build, right? See what everyone can bring to the table. It's not just your best friend or your sister or your brother. It's a person that you met who's really, really brilliant at what they do, and then see how you can incorporate them into your idea.
But with that example you gave of the person selling water, can't it be just as well that he just got up one day and said, okay, I want to make a lot of money by selling bottles of water, so then he looked around for someone to do it, but he doesn't really care about fixing the problem there. He's just using that as an opportunity to make money.
Mm-hmm. It is. It absolutely is. But even then you have to solve the problem, right? Like,
Right,
I mean, you can't just go, if I'm going to sell water bottles outside of a grocery store, you're really not going to make money.
Right, but you don't have to be, it doesn't seem like, for sometimes, it's definitely better and will probably lead to better things, but it doesn't seem like you always have to be passionate about solving a problem. You just have to find somewhere where if you take advantage of it, you can make money.
You're absolutely correct, and I know a lot of companies who do that. I just don't see a lot of those companies succeed. I've seen, it happens, especially right now, being an entrepreneur is super in vogue. Everybody wants to be one. Forbes is talking about it. Time Magazine is talking about it. New York Times wants to talk about it, right? They all want to meet the next big entrepreneur, the next big Mark Zuckerberg. But a lot of these companies will fizzle out because entrepreneurs have a very difficult life. Like, you're not making money for the first couple of years. There's a woman that we know who, I don't know if you guys have heard of Happy Baby Foods. They're like an organic baby food product. They're very, very big now. She has lots of funding, but at one point I was talking to her, and she was like, yeah, I walked down, I was at the subway, and it was raining outside, and I didn't have 30 cents to, like, fill up my Metro card. And that's how bad it can get. So if you're not passionate about it, you'll quit. And that's where the passion becomes necessary.
Other questions? Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Before you guys clean up,